You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
But a lot of it was cool, man.
Yeah.
You know, we had some really cool people on there, man. We had like we sat with Mario Barrios before his Gervonta Davis fight. We had this couple, Matt and Alexa. They go by the Buns and Guns fit couple. They're like huge in advocate.
That sounds familiar.
Not Advocare. What's the other one? Herbalife.
Okay.
They're like the number one people for Herbalife in like San Antonio. Is this on already?
Yeah. You can pull that closer to you too. So where can people find those podcasts?
Right now,
YouTube?
they're YouTube. Yeah,
Okay.
they're on YouTube.
What's it under?
It's under the Culinary Ninja.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I did is I just reset everything to the Culinary Ninja Diet and Podcast because it was what we had. Fuck, I forgot what we were calling it before. I think it was just the Luna and Rumble Boy podcast or something like that. And then all I did was once I knew that we weren't going to continue, I knew I wanted to relaunch my podcast at some point. So I started just putting all that stuff into action. Mm-hmm. Started with the rebranding of my actual business itself. And then
Which is the Culinary Ninja.
Right. So the business used to be called Line Fit Foods.
Okay.
That was back in I had that name since 2009 when I originally wanted to open up the business. But then I was working for, I was a regional sales trainer for Gold's Gym at that time and a general manager at some of the locations or whatever. So I never launched it. But that's what I had originally named the business. And the Culinary Ninja was the other name that I wanted to give the business when I first started. But I ended up going with Lion Fit Foods. So over the past couple of years, I was like, man, I kind of just want to rebrand because I do a lot in the combat industry. Mm-hmm. And the name was more suiting for me. And then the website, or I guess not the website, the domain name became available because it wasn't before because Rogue used to own it. The ones that make the fitness equipment and stuff. So they used to own it because for a while they had this thing called the Culinary Ninja nutrition. I don't know, section or something they would give.
So do they just buy all the domains that say, have anything Culinary Ninja in it?
Not all of them. Not the one that's the Culinary Ninja.
I got you.
but I guess there was a hold in general for anything similar to. I don't know. I couldn't get it on GoDaddy, but then when they put it up for sale for fucking $10,000 or something like that.
Whoa!
I'm not even kidding. $7,000 to $10,000, something like that. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to pay that. But these other ones are available now. So the one that was the Culinary Ninja was available. So I bought that one.
That's awesome.
But
have you always been a chef or what's your background? Because I met you at Renee's event, mm-hmm. and then started looking into it, and I was like, this food looks pretty good, man. Yeah. So are those your recipes, or how does all that work? What's your background in that?
Yeah, so I've always been in the culinary world since I was basically 16. So the quick short version of it was that I got my first job at Morton's of Chicago washing dishes. So I had a son really young.
Are you originally from Chicago?
No. Morton's of Chicago is a steakhouse here in San Antonio.
Oh,
yeah, it's a badass steakhouse too.
I've never been there. Apparently.
Yeah, it's in River Center Mall. It's like an upscale steakhouse.
Got you.
I had my cousin's husband, yeah, was one of the line cooks there, and he ended up getting me a job as a dishwasher. And I needed a job because, like I said, I had a son really young when I was in high school, so I needed to work. So. I got a job as a dishwasher as I was going to school, and that kind of got my foot in the door when it came to the culinary world. From there, it's pretty easy in that type of environment if you apply yourself to kind of move forward. So then I kind of moved up to the salad station, pantry station, and then kept moving in the forward direction to line cook and stuff like that. And all while I was in high school, finished high school. And enrolled myself in community college, decided that I wanted to become a Marine, and then SAPD. That was my original plan.
Yeah.
My original plan was, okay, I'm going to go enroll in the Marines. This was what was this, 98? Back in 98. And then I was going to come back and become SAPD, and my long-term goal was to be in law enforcement as a narcotics detective.
Okay.
So that's what I originally wanted to do with my life, just based upon like my childhood and everything that I had seen growing up and, you know, in the hood or whatever. And that's the path I wanted to take. And I ended up at Morton's washing dishes. And then I met this dude named Andrew Wiseman when I enrolled in the Marine. I went like started the process for the Marines, went to take all the tests, took the ASVAB, went to take the physical test. I mean, I was down to the wire, bro. Like, and there was like, I forgot what was the last thing I had to do. And then they were going to be like, okay, like you're a fucking Marine, go to basic training, right? Well, I met this dude named Andrew Wiseman, who currently owns a popular place called Mr. Juicy Burger.
Okay.
So, but before that, he owned a place called Restaurant Le Rev and a ton of other restaurants in between that as well. I met him. He had a really upscale French restaurant.
Is he a business owner or is he a chef?
He's a chef, yeah.
Okay.
So I met him when he opened a place called Restaurant Le Rev that was by the Greyhound bus station downtown, right next to the Bill Millers. And I walked past there. I was looking for a second job, and I don't know. I don't even remember. I walked in, talked to him. He gave me a job, and that kind of just went from there. That's when I really kind of got into the real culinary world, to where it was like high-end, fine dining, $200 to $300 a person, 30 people a night. And then I started doing some traveling and stuff with him. And that kind of influenced me I decided I wasn't going to go to the Marines. I was like, I think this is what I want to do. I don't know. On hindsight, I love the decision that I made, but I always wondered, like, what if I would have taken that original path that I planned on having, you know?
Well, you know, it sounds like the culinary world appealed to your like maybe more of a passion. You know, maybe the Marines and the law enforcement route was looked like a good route when you sat down and put it on paper, but it sounds like getting into the culinary world kind of sparked something else inside of you that went, hey man, I dig this. You know, my interest is piqued. You know, I can focus on this kind of thing. Well,
it was art, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, food is art. At least that version of the culinary world, you know, is art, because I mean, I couldn't walk into, no disrespect to like anything short order, but I couldn't walk into like a Jim's and be like, okay, this is art, because like it just wouldn't appeal to me the same way.
Well, I guess a Jim's is more, trying to feed as many people as possible.
Yeah, it's
and
just
get
like
them
a
in
restaurant.
And out. Right, getting them in and out.
I always try to like, when I get into the conversation with people, I'm always like, look, this is kind of like what I used to do versus like what you probably think that I used to do. It was a whole nother world.
Yeah.
You're talking a professional, upscale culinary
Well, when you're telling me about it, I've never experienced anything like that. You know, when you're talking about that kind of price and only 30 people a night, I've never been anywhere like that. I didn't even know that existed, except
there's
for
no
John
room
Wick
for error.
or something.
Yeah, dude, it's like a professional, like you're on a professional team where there is literally no room for error, because it will destroy the remainder of the night. Like you have to be on your shit, and you have to have all the right tools and dress the right way. Like you can't come to work dirty or sloppy or unshaved. Or it was like being in the Marines, basically, bro. It was like, but in the kitchen. Yeah. And I got to learn a lot of cool stuff for Andrew. Andrew like just taught me so many things. We did like this thing called the James Beard Foundation a couple of times. It was awesome. That? It's like an invitational that you get to go. James Beard Foundation has been around for like tons of years. It's basically like an accolade at this point, or decades and stuff. And it's in New York City. So you get to fly out there, you get to participate in the actual event. You cook for like a, room of people, or however many, they're having that night or whatever. And it's like a step, it's like a way to say like you're kind of on the map, what I mean? Like this is like an accolade for us. Like, yeah, we did this. It's like earning a star or something, like a Michelin, not necessarily like earning a Michelin star. Don't get those two together, but you know what I mean? Like it's in that realm of like rewards and like, oh, this is something I did, and like helps people know like, okay, you know what you're doing. So
I'd imagine being invited to something like that, that kind of exposure, carries a lot of weight when you go out to your city, or to another city when you show up and, hey, we're gonna maybe work in this area or whatever. That kind of carries a lot of weight with you.
Yeah, it's like something you're able to say, like, I attended this, I was part of this event, and then people like they'll take you seriously. Like, gotcha. Okay, you know what you're talking about. It's like saying you're a pro fighter. Mm-hmm. Like I got like 3 Showtime fights. Like I'm okay, so like the dude knows what he's doing. You know what I mean, or whatever. So, I mean, it kind of helped in that realm. And we used to have like local, what we called chef summits, where back then we get all the like the top chefs in San Antonio together and do like these huge, like, dinners for the city or whatever. And so that was a way to get my name out there as well, which was fun. But yeah, working with him, I worked for him for my whole culinary life, basically. I did a few years for another chef at the tail end of my culinary career, a guy named Terry Burko. I went to Brownsville.
How old are you at this time?
I'm 43.
No. Yeah. When you're starting
early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, I met Andrew when I was 18.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, because like
You
I
were
said,
young then.
I was ready. I was like, my plan was, like I said, get out of school, go to the Marines. So there was a little period of time, and to tell you the truth, it's so fucking hard to remember, because it was legitimately like a lifetime ago.
Sure.
I mean, we're talking 25 years ago, 20 plus years. Bro, like, I'm like, Jesus, that was so long ago. Like, I wish I was as smart as I was now, or feel like I am now back then. There's so many unclear moments in that time frame of my life, between like 18 and like 27. I'm like, fuck, what did I do? Was I even alive?
Yeah.
I don't remember so many things, but I just worked. That was legit my life. Being in that world, in that culinary world, I mean, my days consisted of anywhere from 13 to 18-hour work days. And we made everything from scratch in-house. The chef had an apartment right above the restaurant, taking naps there, taking naps in the restaurant, taking naps outside and getting right back to work, going home, sleeping like 3 hours and getting back to work because we got to bake breads, we got to do this, we got to do that. All I did was work.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why I can't remember that whole period of time too that much, because it was legitimately just working.
And is that pretty typical for higher end chefs to just
it is
work
demanding.
nonstop? Wow.
It's demanding. And it typically tends not to be financially rewarding unless it's your place.
Yeah.
And maybe not even then.
Restaurant business is tough in general.
Yeah, it is tough. And like, I was lucky enough to fall into the hands of a person who wasn't as much of a, man, for lack of a better term, a shithead as most of the people in the industry were, because the shit you see on TV where you have like these super high-end chefs that are like, what are you doing, you piece of shit? Like, like that's real, man.
Yeah.
Like they treat you like shit. I would go work at a bunch of other places.
Well, I'd
for
imagine
free.
there's probably, I was going to say there's probably, for every guy you get rid of, there's probably 10 guys wanting to take his spot.
Exactly, yeah. So that's one of the things I would do too, is I would get sent places to where like I would work for free just to learn a specific part of their art, a specific part of what they were doing in their restaurant. Whether it was like, I don't know, making dough or whatever, a specific sauce, whatever the case was, I would go work for them and I would work for free. And it's because they have people knocking out their door that they want to learn from them specifically. So, but that stuff really does that like kind of like
that seems
abuse kind of exists for real. You know what I mean?
There's the abuse aspect to it, right? But it sounds like it takes two types of personalities. Either you're gonna do amazing or you're going to fail.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Because it sounds very cutthroat and very. Not to say there aren't good, solid people in a certain industry, but when it's that cutthroat and there's that many people trying to gain the knowledge of certain recipes, I would imagine there's a lot of people who don't have your best interest in mind when you're working with them, because it's like a lot of things, but there's not a whole lot of top spots, and there's a whole lot of people wanting to fill that top spot. Yeah. So I'd imagine it gets pretty
it's like crabs in a bucket, man, trying to get to the top. It was. And I mean, I saw a lot of stuff. Like I would see like, and this was, like I said, like late 90s, early 2000s, where, you could be a lot tougher on people than you can now. Yeah. So a whole lifetime ago, like I said, and I would see, dude, it was crazy because like nobody would ever believe me. I'd be like, dude, this is legitimately like a professional team. Like if you come in here and you fuck up, like you're going to get told on the spot and you will break down and leave. I saw so many people just quit on the spot. And that's because my chef wasn't that like, my chef was more of like, you'd mess up and he'd be like, when your pop would do that or something, and you'd be like, fuck, that's something, like, just yell at me instead, bro. You know what I mean?
Like, I'm disappointed.
Yeah. I'm like, bro, just hit me instead or something, like, fuck. But no, and so my chef was like that. Like, he was more like, for me, that was more impactful. But it worked out because I'm not the kind of guy
that I could trust you.
Yeah, like shit like that. Like, come on, dude, I thought you had this, and I'm like, fuck. And it would just murder me mentally, But it worked out perfectly for me because I couldn't have the other version. I've never reacted well to people being aggressive with me So no matter what or how it is or what the repercussion for me is going to be in that moment, I've never been capable of really reacting very well to that. So, you know, I wouldn't have been able to handle that. Like, you fucking suck. I'd be like, well, fuck you. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be able to. So that version of like leadership was perfect for me, and it really kind of helped. There's so many. I tell that dude all the time. I still talk to him.
He's still in San Antonio?
Yeah. He owns all the Mr. Juicy's in San Antonio. It's a badass burger spot, bro. If you haven't been there, we got to go.
Yeah,
like,
we need to.
We got to go.
I had a burger earlier.
It's on San Pedro. It's dope.
Mr. Juicy's.
I tell him all the time, like he doesn't get it, because I tell him like, bro, you don't understand like how much of an impact you made on my life. Because I was just a kid, bro. I was a kid with a kid trying to, like, in this grown man's world without a father figure, and you put me in this like high ranking position, and I had so much pressure on me, and it like helped me like learn so many positive aspects and attributes. I didn't learn them in that moment. I will say that. That's the weird thing.
Yeah.
Is in that moment of time that I spent with him, you would think it was the exact opposite. You'd be like, you didn't learn shit, you know? But as I grew and I matured in life as a man, I realized like how much those moments taught me, you know, and how much what kind of person they brought out in me. And so I've always told him like, dude, you've done way more for me than you'll ever even be able to recognize.
It's in hindsight, it's got to be really a really good feeling when a quality person puts you in those positions of trust, right? Because it's kind of like, and you know, I always tell people, you know, when somebody like that trusts somebody like you, that says a lot about you.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times we don't recognize that. We don't recognize maybe certain qualities in ourselves because typically we're harder on ourselves, right? But when somebody like that goes, hey, you know, this is a spot for you, you know, and you see how rough it is for other people, that's got to build your confidence, man. And is that what kind of pushed you towards going to do your own deal?
Well,
or what made you kind of really branch off? Because it sounds like you were in a decent position with him.
I was in a great position, and then like every other jackass, I just ran it to the ground. So what I ended up doing, what ended up happening is it's taxing that position. Being a chef, like it's fucking taxing, and it's stressful. And I was like I said, I was a kid with a kid trying to figure out the whole family thing, and always working. And it was just all these things coming at me. Like I didn't have any alcohol till I was like 23 years old. So like I had a drink of alcohol. I was like, oh, this is the nightlife. Like I didn't get to have all that because I had a kid really young. So like all these new things coming at me and introduced to me at one time. There was towards the end, the tail end of our professional relationship, we opened another place. He opened another place called Sip Panini and Espresso Bar, and it was down the road, and he put me in charge of that too. So I was like in charge of that, plus like doing other stuff at La Rev, plus like learning these other new aspects of life that I really hadn't been introduced to before, and it just turned out to be too much. Yeah. Like I just was like, fuck, I was just overwhelmed, which looking back at it now, like, fuck yeah, I was. Like I might be able to handle that now as a grown man. But back then, like, bro, the fact that I was able to do that for so long, you know, well, I was impressed, you know, with myself.
At that age, everything's the highest of importance, right? As we get older, and I was talking to Rob earlier about this, you know, the older we get, the better we get at cutting out the BS, right? The better we can go, this is a lot less important than what I thought it was when I was 25. You know, when I was 25, everything was the most important thing. Every trust somebody gave me, everything that I felt like somebody required from me, I had to make a priority. Yeah. And as you get older, you start to go, okay, well, what's important? My family, providing for my family, my friends, having the trust of my friends. And once you start looking at life through those lenses, it gets easier to kind of, you know, putting the back burner stuff to the back burner.
Yeah, it just became to be too much. And I never had like, this isn't an excuse at all. This is just life, right? I never had like a barometer. There was nothing ever, anybody or anything checking my temperature in life. You know what I mean? Like it was just me doing what I thought I needed to do and what I could do in that moment in life to like make life, if that makes sense. Yeah. And
everything required rocket fuel.
It was just fucking like go on everything, you know? And like, there was nobody that would be like, hey bro, like I didn't have there wasn't a dude like with my son now that I'd be like, hey, like, listen, you don't want to do that because of X, Y, and Z, or you need to pipe down in this area because you're getting a little out of hand. Nobody to kind of help, you know, put that balance on my life or kind of give me some kind of boundary or ethic to live within. So it was just me fucking learning everything, you know? So it was just like, I had to do all this shit. And then to become who I am here now today, because now I'm like, oh, okay, that's not cool. I've done that before. You know what I mean? Or, oh, I probably shouldn't say this, or I probably shouldn't do that, or whatever.
Well, you know, living life going 100 miles an hour is cool until you run into something and you hit it going 100 miles an hour. You know.
So he ended up letting me go, dude. When I was at SIP, I'm pretty sure that's what happened, because I was working for him and his sister, and they ended up letting me go. And then I think I said something like, fuck that, I'm not going to go back to Larev, like, because I felt offended by it. When I'm pretty sure he clearly told me I could go back to work still at the restaurant, but I couldn't oversee. So I kind of like felt like I failed him.
I can't have it all.
I was embarrassed, you know? I was like embarrassed. I was like, dude, I fucking failed you. Like, and then I was offended at the same time because I had pride on, you know, in me. So I ended up leaving. You know, we ended up parting ways, didn't talk for a few years.
How'd you rebuild that?
I took a little hiatus when he let me go. I took a little hiatus. I went with my cousin to Colorado, and he was in Fort Collins doing I don't know, some shit. It was when apps were coming out, like for your phones and stuff. So he was like involved in this business that was making a fart app. I swear to God, bro.
I might have used it once.
I swear to God, bro. And
actually, I don't need an app, man.
he was up there, and I was like, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna chill with you for a while. So I was up at Fort Collins, and we did our thing, like did all kinds of shit out in Colorado or whatever, and took a little hiatus. And then I came back, and I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do for like work and money, you know. And I was like, I'm done with like cooking or whatever. Well, I had this other chef offer me a job. Terry Burkle. I went to work for him for like 2.5 years. I opened up some restaurants for him in Brownsville and on Padre Island, and here in San Antonio.
Which one's on Padre Island?
The Grill at Leon Springs and Dolce, I think was the name of it.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was called Dolce, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a bar and grill. Trying to think if I'm getting that confused with anything, but the one on
that sounds
Brownsville,
familiar.
Dolce on Brownsville was like right in front of the HEB on that was at Ruben Torres.
Yeah.
And then you from Brownsville? You know Brownsville?
No, we got family down there, so we go down there pretty often.
So remember, this is back like this. Well, this was probably already like 2000, probably 10 or 9 or something like that.
I've been with my wife since 2009, so we've
Yeah,
been going down there for a while.
On Ruben Torres, there's that. There used to be a World Gym right there. There was a Buffalo Wild Wings, a World Gym, an HEB, and then across the street over here was like a bank or something, and then our restaurant was back there. That's all I remember, because other than banks, ain't shit out there. There was nothing but banks on Ruben Torres, and then on Padre was right on the boulevard as well. The one on Padre. That one I just trained somebody to be there, and then I was like housed out of the one that was on Brownsville. So that's where I was the actual chef at. That's where I would be every day for the most part. I trained up another guy, and it's just a quick drive or whatever, for like 6 months, and then he was overseeing that one, and then I stayed on the one in Brownsville. And then I came back for that same chef. I opened a place called the Grill at Leon Springs, which was right by the original Rudy's Barbecue, there on I-10 and Burning Stage Road. Mm-hmm. I think that burned down now. And then after that, I was like, no, I'm just done with this kitchen shit. It's like I'm in the same thing again. I'm like, well, okay, there's a little bit of a backstory to that. I don't know if you want me to say it or not, but
do it, man.
The backstory to that is I took the job in Brownsville with that other chef because when I came back, I got in a little bit of trouble because I was fighting and I caught a couple felony charges. And so the third one I caught, they were like, you're going to jail. Bro, I'm scared shitless of jail.
What is, not that you have to get into particulars, but what kind of fighting gets you a felony? Like, are there all fighting felonies? Or
So I always carry around brass knuckles.
Okay.
And brass knuckles weren't legal at that time. I've been carrying around brass knuckles since they are now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. As of probably 5 years ago, I think.
I've never understood why brass knuckles were illegal. But I can carry a knife and a gun.
That's true. You hit somebody with brass knuckles, you understand why they're illegal, though. Like, it's it's not pretty, but
I
yeah.
almost bought brass. I'm an overthinker, man. So I almost bought brass knuckles once, and I started doing some reviewing, and because I'm a nerd, and so I saw one guy talking. He says you got to be real careful, especially nowadays with brass knuckles. He said because when you hit somebody, you're gonna make them bleed. He said, and you have potential to get that blood all over you. And so it was kind of like. I started thinking, well, man, because then he started talking about hepatitis C, everything that you get from it. And it's like, after a while, I was like, oh, okay, never mind. I'll just stick with the 9mm. So.
Bro, you don't want to hit somebody. So I literally have, like I told you, I left my fanny pack in the car. I always have a fanny pack on me.
We're going to have to compare fanny packs later because I got mine in the truck too.
Bro, I had somebody, really quickly the other day, somebody was like, what are you carrying in that fanny pack? I was like, you want to see? I'll show you. So I emptied it out, and they were like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Bro, you asked me." There's my headphones, my wallet, some other random shit, some mints. But then I pull out the brass knuckles. They're like, "Why do you have that?" I was like, "Well, the only reason I carry them now is if it's like not if I end up having to be in an altercation, and there's more than one person attacking me, I'll use them. But if it's just one person, I won't use them. But if it's more than one person, I'm definitely going to use them.
Yeah, because
I've used them so many times that." I know if you hit somebody with them, like it's bad. Yeah, you know.
I'd imagine you're breaking bone and stuff too.
Yeah, you're definitely splitting some skin open for sure. If you hit them correctly and if you hit them hard, they're going down. They're not getting up, or something's broken, something's torn. Yeah. It's gonna suck.
Have you ever been hit with them?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
So you had those experiences.
Yeah. So I had the brass knuckles, and I caught the last charge was like assault, intent to commit bodily harm or something like that.
Isn't that what a fight is?
I think it has to do with the weapon. That's why they.
Oh, so it's just a legal term that says, hey, if you did this, these things happened. Yeah. If I put this label on you.
And I used them that time because my stupid ass cousin, I had already caught 2 charges, and my cousin picked a fight in a bar on the south side. And we all grew up on the south side. So, like you can pick a fight, you're going to get a fight. Yeah. Like, you don't even have to look for a fight. You're going to get in a fucking fight. And he picked a fight, and one of the dudes hit me on the head with a pull stick, and I still got a dent in the fucking head from it. And when he hit me in the head, the fight popped off. We ended up getting outside when the fight was finishing, and I saw the dude out there. So I ran up on him.
The guy with the cue stick?
The dude that hit me with the pull stick. So I ran up on him, and I ended up hitting him a few times with the brass knuckles. And then he ended up I've never been like, I'm going to run. Like, if the police are there, I'm not going to fucking run. Like, you're already here, bro. Like, I'm not going to run. I'm going to take my licks. Like, whatever.
Well, they're going to find out who did it anyway.
And I would always tell people, like, why are you running, bro? They're going to catch you.
Yeah.
Like,
when everybody goes, hey, bro. It was Gino,
They're going to catch you. So I stuck around, and then the dude ended up pressing charges on me. And I was like, what? And what? It's
sucks, almost better to get stopped there than have them come to your house or your mom's house or whoever, because then that's a whole thing. So.
Well, what happens is when back then, what I was told was because I used the brass knuckles, the state has to press charges on you because I broke the guy's jaw.
Oh.
So
it wasn't even him necessarily having to do it. The state was going to do it.
Well, he pressed charges on me too.
Oh, gotcha.
Those ended up falling through. But the state had to pursue the charges on me because I broke his jaw and I used brass knuckles.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's what made it the most severe charge,
Okay.
Yeah. So because of that, I had to get a lawyer. So I lawyered up with this dope-ass lawyer who's still around named Sean Brown. And lawyered up with him. And I needed the money to pay him. So I took this job with this chef. And he offered me, he was paying for everything. My room, my board, he was feeding me. He was just giving me a salary. He gave me a car, everything. So I went to open up these
awesome.
restaurants. I was like, I'll take the job because he was giving me a good salary. And I was like, I need the money to pay the lawyer. So I had to move down to Brownsville for 3 years. That was the deal. Mm-hmm. So that's why I ended up going to Brownsville and taking the deal and doing that. I ended up coming back in 2.5 years.
Were you able to get off your charges?
I was. I had to go through the whole process. I got arrested. One day he called me up. He's like, hey, you need to be here Thursday or whatever day it was. I got to take you to the court office. We're going to go into the judge's quarters, beneath in the basement.
His actual office?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you're going to turn yourself in, and they're going to arrest you, and they're going to fingerprint you and everything. And then you're going to wait for me, and it's probably going to take a few hours, but you're going to go home. I was like, well, Walker, dude, because I'm so like, it sounds stupid, but I'm afraid of going to jail. Like, I've always had this major feel like if I go to jail, I'm never gonna come out.
I have this thing. I was talking to my cousin this past weekend. We're talking about getting arrested, and I've never been arrested, but I think I would lose my shit if I was handcuffed. Like, just the not. I'm a weirdo, right? If you and me go to a restaurant, I like to sit somewhere I can get out.
Yeah.
You know, if we go sit somewhere and then we're surrounded by people, I get anxiety because I feel like I don't have an out. And we were talking about it. I said, man, if I ever got arrested by the cops, by my wife's hot cousin handcuffed, we're cool. But by a cop, I was like, man, I think I would lose my shit because I know I can't get out of this unless he lets me out, and he's not gonna let me out. Yeah. And my anxiety would go through the roof. So I get what you're saying.
My fear is like you go to jail and people just check you. Yeah. And you're in county with people who are like murderers and shit like that. And they'll just check you for the hell of it.
I used to work in a county jail.
I felt like I've always had this face that people just want to fucking check, bro. I've been in so many fights in my life, and I always have. I feel like I unwillingly draw that energy to me, and I don't want it, but I'm always a dude that ends up like, somebody wants to fight with him, I'm like, fuck, I didn't want to fight. Like, this sucked. So I feel like if I go to jail, that's going to happen. And
they call that a kind face.
and I'm
say you got a kind face, the kind I want to hit.
Yeah, bro. Dude, I have felt like that my whole life. And I'm just like, but, and I just always felt like if I go to jail, like, I'm never going to come out. Yeah. Something's going to happen, you know? And so I've always had that massive fear of going to jail. Like,
so was he able to get you out immediately?
It happened exactly the way he said
okay.
it. Yeah, it happened exactly the way. And I was shitting bricks the whole time, but it happened just like he said it. And I sat there in cuffs for like almost 3 hours, I think. And then they came and they got me. And I ended up having I finished paying him like $8,000 or something like that. And then I had to pay some fines.
That's not a bad price to get out. I mean, for him, I guess.
They were trying to give me 13 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So I ended up getting like 3 years of probation, paid some fines, did like 100 and something hours of community service.
And
everything that was better than going to jail.
And they downplayed the felony, right? To something else?
Bro, to tell you the truth, I don't even remember. What I did was after my 3 years of probation, I did exactly what he told me to. I went to this spot downtown. It's by the Bill Miller's little commissary that they have right there downtown. Okay. And I went in there and I got all of my record expunged. Oh, wow. So I paid like $1,800 or something like that. And I got everything on my record expunged. So I had a clean record. And because I was still thinking, I had this whole rebirth of the thought of going into the military again.
Yeah.
There's just always been like on me, you know?
Well, there's so much structure in the military, you know, and it sounds like you needed it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, bro, I needed that for sure. And so I went and got my record expunged and have never had any issues in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that's a blessing, man. You know, that's a getting to the edge and not having to jump over. You know, it's sometimes we need to get real close to being fucked, to go, okay, I don't want this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, yeah. And I've had plenty of those experiences. Yeah. Trust me, not just that one. So plenty of those learning experiences. So what happened was I ended up, after all that stuff happened, I ended up getting into the fitness industry. And I was like, well, how can I apply what I know as a chef to anything else? Like, I felt almost dumb, you know? I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I don't know what I can do.
Well, you know,
chef.
At the time, you probably didn't recognize it. You probably do now, but it sounds like that career that you had young was so stringent and so time-consuming that you can apply that to anything and be successful.
So I'll tell you what happened. I had a friend, and his dad was not a physical therapist. What's the other one? He was a surgeon. He was like I forgot. Some type of surgeon, like that has to do with sports. And he was like, hey, you have a really good work ethic, and I don't think you understand it. And you just need somebody to help you. And I was like, well, help me. You know, like, what do you mean? You know, I remember this clear as day, bro. He told me, okay, well, come to my house at whatever day. And he lived like across from the Dominion in the hills out there, like $3 million house, beautiful spot. I pull up, whatever. Go to the house. He takes me in the office. I'm trying to remember what kind of surgeon he was, man. And he's like, okay, tell me what you used to do. So I started telling him everything I would do. Just explain your day to me. I said, okay. So I started explaining my day to him. And he's writing shit down. And he's like, okay, so you have experience in human resources. You have experience in hiring and firing, you know, whatever, interviewing. You have experience. You have the ability to multitask under pressure. Like all these other, like he just started pulling all the, like just rewording.
Manage other people too. Yeah.
All this shit. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, I didn't know I could do all that. You know, and I never looked at it that way. I just thought I just could cook, you know. And he was like, now you formulate a resume from this. And I was like, okay. So then he helped me make a resume. It was like the best thing that ever happened. Like I was so blown away by that moment in my life. I was just like, wow, this is fucking crazy. Like I never thought I had this much credentials.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, man? And this pops up I just spit, but this pops up in so many podcasts that I do with people. How critical it is to have a good mentor.
Yeah.
You know, and I even talked to Rob earlier about this. You know, I'm very ignorant in the way that I think I know everything and that I'm capable and that I'm sharp. And even though I may be, the benefit of having somebody that has more life experience or experience in an area or that has already done the screw ups. And you know, a lot of times we take advice from people and we think, this guy's just telling me telling me his version. But what we don't understand is when we're given good advice, it's not just that that's the successful path that they took. It's telling you what path not to take. And a lot of times without having a good mentor, you don't get that. And it's funny because that's all that dude was already, you've already told me about 3 mentors. Yeah. You know? And it's like, get yourself a fucking mentor, man.
No, 100%. Because like, I mean, and you got to remember, like I said, I was basically just like this wound up toy that was spinning in all fucking directions all the time. Like, and I hate to like, not that I hate to say it, but it almost sounds like I'm giving myself a pass on why I behaved the way I behaved in my past. But as I reflect on my life, I realized that the impact it had on me being in a single parent household, no father figure, I wasn't close to my tios and none of that stuff. My mother had like bipolar disorder. So that was a struggle in itself. I had a kid early. Like I had all these factors that I had to combat, you know, and I was just always trying to figure out what was the right way to do it. Not necessarily what was right from wrong, because I already had that moral compass in a sense. But I was always trying to like hustle my way through life and figure out like when you do that, you're like fucking, you're testing the fence everywhere. You know what I mean? And you're constantly fucking up. Sometimes it's grave, sometimes it's minimal. But when you get the opportunity to have somebody to be like, hold on, like, you know, go this way. It has really made an impact on my life, you know, and I can remember significant moments in my life because I don't feel like I matured at all until I was like fucking 35 years old, I think. Yeah. You know, I don't really remember much prior to then, which is weird. Yeah, you know, it's almost like maybe I'm intentionally blacking a lot of stuff out, but when I had somebody steer me in the right direction, I always made sure I took advantage of it if it felt right, you know. And when I had him like sit me down there, take the time to invite me to his house, you know, break everything down for me. I don't know. Well, he said that he liked the fact that so one thing I've always commonly gotten was my work ethic. Like I'm just a fucking locomotive, bro. Yeah. I cannot stop. It's impossible. Like we talked about that a little bit earlier. I would just go through shit. I would just fight, go. And a lot of people can't do that. Yeah. You know, whatever the reasons are, like there's a lot of people that can't do that. You know, I remember I told this dude a couple weeks ago, I was like, bro, I'm the type of dude, like if you tell me I can make $1,000 a day scrubbing 1,000 toilets, or I can make $100 training 5 clients, I'm going to go scrub 1,000 toilets. A lot of people aren't going to fucking do that. but I'm in it because I'm gonna put the work in. Like, I know that I can physically put the work in, and I understand the pluses that come from this. I can eventually take that income and turn it into something else, versus me taking the easy, slow road over here. Just never been for me, which is when you're traveling so fast, like you said, you get in a lot of fucking wrecks.
Yeah.
You know, it's you either become a badass driver or you get in a lot of wrecks, you know? So the one thing I've always heard the most was just that I've just always had a strong work ethic, and I don't really leave a lot of room for like error or gray area. I like shit to be black and white.
Yeah.
I like, this is what it is, and this is what
it sounds like growing up you didn't have a whole lot of backup, right? So you were your backup.
Yeah.
So it was critical that your maybe not all your decisions, but it was critical that a lot of your work and financial decisions were solid, because nobody was gonna just float you alone for 10 grand.
And that's still to date.
Yeah.
That's still the case to date. You know what I mean? Like, I've never had that sense of security to where it's like, I mean, now as an adult, can I go get a loan from a bank? Do I understand, you know, what was so complex to me back then? Do I understand that now? Of course. Am I a lot more business savvy and educated? Of course. But like, but I don't, the weird thing is I don't even go look for those types of things. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm like, fuck, you know, we're having a slow few months, maybe I should take out a line of credit or use the line of credit or get this loan or whatever, or hit up whatever funds the government is giving out for small businesses. I tend to not think about that shit, you know, because I'm just like, for me, it's just like, all right, how am I going to hustle? COVID hit, my business slowed down after like a month. I'll tell you exactly what I did. I had been thinking about infusing or making edibles with CBD flower, because my boy Amos, like I said, he had the CBD flower, and I was like, I bet I can make this CBD shit that everybody's like on right now, you know? And it's just an infused product, and in the kitchen we infuse herbs into everything all the time. Like, I make infused butter, I can infuse it into food, whatever. I was like, well, let me give this a shot. So I'm really big on self-education. I love reading. So I bought a few books, read a few books, watched some videos, practiced some shit at home. And I said, cool, let me go get some flour. So I went and got some cannabis flour, CBD, and made some infused butter, coconut oil, this, whatever. I made aguas frescas, made simple syrup. I infused simple cannabis flour into simple syrup and made aguas frescas with cannabis infused aguas frescas, because I was having trouble sleeping. So I had this Whoop, and I did this test on myself where how good my sleep was with the Whoop. And then I said, well, I'm going to try melatonin and see if that improves my sleep, because the Whoop reads all your sleep, right? Tells you how much deep sleep you're in, all this other shit. And then I said, well, that helped a little bit. Let me see what cannabis does. I tried cannabis. Yeah. I tried cannabis CBD, and it helped more. I was like, okay, I'm getting better sleep. I feel a little bit better. You know, I'm going to sleep a little bit easier. There's no real hangover from it. I said, well, let me just try cannabis, you know, with THC in it. And then I tried microdosing cannabis with THC. Bro, my sleep went from like getting better to just the fucking best sleep I ever had.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like was all happening at one time. So I started playing around with edibles, like selling edibles, you know, stuff like that. And my point is that I've always just kind of looked for like, okay, well, I'm not getting it here, so what can I do to get it there? You know, and I've always kind of had that, like, I got to keep working, got to keep trucking. Like, okay, this falls off. And what that leads to after a while is multiple streams of income, because, you know, if I don't have this and I don't have that, like, one can be firing, one's not firing, one is doing good, they're all doing good. Like, it you never know. But when you keep an open mind and you start using like your talents to their potential, there's so much more you can do. And I'm always thinking about getting money. Like, that sounds very cliche, but I like I said, no support system. So I'm always thinking about, what people don't understand about small business is that you're like commission based. Like, you wake up every day and you have to make whatever amount of money you set goal for yourself every single day. So that leads to like a hustler's mentality. And if you've hustled before in whatever way, shape, or form, you understand what it's like to be commission based. And I was commission based when I was in the fitness industry for a long time. So I knew what it was like every day. We start from zero. I could make $3,000 the day before, But today I woke up and I'm back at $0.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not getting paid unless I do something with it. So I would go out
So
and
that
hustle.
part of your brain's always on.
Right.
That's where your focus.
So when
is.
people say something, I'm always thinking like, how can we monetize this?
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, you know that there's nothing wrong with that. You know,
Yeah.
I have the problem because I come up with these great ideas. I have amazing ideas.
Yeah.
At least I think I do.
yeah,
The problem is like I don't have the entrepreneur or the hustler's mentality where it's like, let me go sell this idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, it's like I always tell people. Now, this is me being arrogant. I love being arrogant, but I like to just go. I tell people, I make dope shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's like a while back, I was making hats and shirts, and I call it. It's called Los Peleoneros, and this was my problem. And I've talked to people about this before. To me, and this was me just being naive and not understanding the world. To me, I would take my bonus, my Christmas bonus. I'd buy a bunch of stuff. I'd make shirts and hats over at Davy's place, and then I would sell them or give them away. Dude, I am terrible at giving stuff away.
Yeah, don't get me started.
So
I'm the same way.
I give it away or sell it, and then I take everything that I had made, and instead of putting it back in and making more product, I would just send it all to MD Anderson. You know, and I always had, and my wife was like, well, you should keep some and keep making stuff. And in hindsight, yes, I was stupid because that's how I keep it going.
You got to keep the re-up money, man.
Yeah, but you know, to me, it was like, I told my wife, I was like, I'm sending this to MD Anderson. To me, it was like, I can't keep any of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I need to send them all that I can, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but I was wrong.
But there's no reward there for you too either.
And I can't help people long term when I do it that way. You know, I'm helping people short term, but to help long term, I've got to keep some of those funds.
Yeah.
And so, and with other stuff, you know, I get to the point where I've made shooting targets and that are just badass. I'll have to show you later. But it's kind of like, that's cool. Let me keep it in the garage, you know.
Yeah.
And I told my wife recently, I said, I really need to get to where I need to figure out my finances. There's probably 3 or 4 things that I'm like, that shit would pop. I just need to hustle in that direction. Now, I will say this. My problem's always been, I've been super focused on my job. You know, I'm in this weird place right now where I'm less super focused on that. And I have a little bit of more mental capacity where I'll go, I need to go revisit these things that I've made before and maybe start pushing that and work for myself.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not getting any younger. I would love to try and work for myself. You know, I told my wife, I said, at work, I'm the shit. I even told her, I said, at work, you're the shit. Could you imagine if we worked for ourselves? There's no way we couldn't have some bit of success.
Yeah. There's a couple of things you said that stood out to me. The first one I'm going to say before I forget. The one thing that I've learned the hardest of the hardest ways and that I try to express to other people is that you have to just pull the trigger and you got to go like one step at a time. Like pull the fucking trigger is step one. I don't care what you want to do. If you want to go work out and start working out, if you want to start selling something or making something, you got to just pull the fucking trigger. That's the hardest part. People stand there and they wonder for so long and then opportunity just goes by, you know what I mean? Or somebody else steals that idea.
Yeah.
Or you end up, you know, not going to the gym, whatever it is, right? Sure. Pull the trigger, okay? And then the other thing you said is I tell my daughter, the one that's sitting out there right now, she'll help me do like little things or whatever, and I try to help her understand, you know, the importance of handling money correctly, you know. And so the first thing I taught her, she was like, well, Daddy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start selling these candies at school. I said, cool. Okay. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'll give you your whatever. What do you need? $30, whatever, right? Give you $30. You go buy everything you need. Okay. I wanted to see how she was going to handle that, right? So she goes, she sells it, whatever. She's like, Dad, I got to buy some more money. I said, well, where's the money? Like, oh, why? She does this little shopping on the app, Temu or whatever. She's a shopaholic now. She's like, well, I spend it. I said, okay, cool. I'm going to give you another $30. This time, the first $30 you make, you got to give back to me. Okay, you got to pay me back. Okay, that's all I want you to do this time. Pay me back the $30. Okay, all right. We go through that again. Pays me back my money. Next time again, I'm like, okay, so where's your money? She's like, well, I spent it again. I was like, we got to stop spending it, bro. So here's the process. Now you got to give me back my $30 again, and then you got to save the next $30, and then the rest of the money you can spend. Okay. So like teaching her, when you do that, you gotta save that re-up money. You gotta save that little bank. That way you're no longer, it gets to the point to where it's just paying for itself.
Right.
And it's usually in the second or the third time that you do that whole process, where you're no longer really investing the money because you've already made your money back, the initial investment. And then you save, you have your little banks where you have your savings in general that you're not touching, that the business is keeping for the money. And then the rest you can kind of play around with or whatever. So I always tell her, like, you got to save like that re-up money. You know what I mean? You got to save that money to reinvest into the business. And then if you're smart, I said, you take 2 times of what you made back. So you take that re-up money and you multiply it times 2 and you make a larger purchase. And then you keep that process going. And before you know it, you went from buying $30 worth of merchandise to buying $1,000 worth of merchandise. And none of it is really coming out of your pocket because because if you want to start really making money to where you're like, fuck, this is making money, you got to re-up 2, 4, 5 times, take all that money that you made without spending 1 penny, putting it right back into the business. And then now you're investing, like you went from investing the initial $30 to now I'm investing like $200 into my business. And to a kid, that's a lot. It's like, sure, I got $200 worth of candies. I'm gonna flip all this. I'm gonna make $800.
Yeah.
Now that's ringing some bells. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing on a larger scale for us when we want to start a small business.
And there's certain aspects of that, certain aspects of business where when you buy 30 things, you're paying the 30 thing price. Mm-hmm. But when you buy it at 1,000, now you're buying it at a cheaper price because you're buying, a wholesale or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's that was a lot of what it's a no-brainer. But at the time for me, I just didn't pay attention to that. Yeah. And I sat with a buddy of mine who's he works for a company that funds nonprofits. And so I was watching, I introduced him to another buddy of mine, and I was just watching the conversation. And my buddy was talking to him and sounded just like me. Mm. And my other friend that works for the company that helps nonprofits is like, no, you need to make money. You need to be able to keep this going and improve it. And and hearing somebody, again, that's the mentor, right? Mm-hmm. And hearing somebody else vocalize that, you go, fuck, that's a no-brainer, man. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's just so much to learn. And there's so many. One thing that I noticed about you is I don't know how you do it. I don't know what your day's like, but you interact with so many people. You network amazing. It's like that day you were just bringing people to the podcast room. Yeah. And it was like, everybody's like, oh, Gino sent me. And one's a fighter, one's doing this, one's doing that, one's doing this. And, it's not like they're all doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody's doing a vast variety of things. And they're all, oh, Gino sent me over here. Yeah. And it's like, I was sitting there and like, how do you make time to stay connected with so many people, man?
I just
do part of your day?
I literally just, like, no. Well, so to rewind really quick, I got into the fitness industry, and then my whole job was sales and marketing. Mm. And I've always been super comfortable speaking to people. So it was pretty easy for me to handle that aspect of the job. What I did is I applied, my approach was like boots on the ground. So I would legitimately just park somewhere and just walk like blocks and enter into every single business and just chop it up with people. And then be like, what are you doing here, by the way? Be like, well, I'm actually out here because we just opened up a Gold's Gym up the road. I got these premium memberships that we're selling. I'd have it on my phone ready to go.
So you lead with your personality.
I would just talk to people. Gotcha. I would introduce, or I would say whatever. Whatever came to mind, right? So, but in doing all that, I was in the fitness industry for a while. You get to meet a lot of people if you're marketing correctly. And it got to the point to where I was teaching all of 4 or 5 gyms in San Antonio how to do marketing for their gyms was part of my responsibility. So when you're doing that, like, it's a numbers game, bro. Like, you can't help but meet chingos of people. You know what I'm saying? And then I applied that to like my normal life. And then I just started kind of being I also keep, no bullshit. I also keep, like I said, running lists. So like I have lists in my phone of people who I want to like talk to on podcast, businesses that I want to go to and introduce my business to. And I'll make sure that I do at least two places a week or 2 new things a week, because once again, I'm a box checker. I got to be productive, Mm-hmm. Okay, I went to Bear CrossFit this week. Okay, I went to talk to Gabe this week. And And that's that. I'll check that off. Like I was productive. I got the name out there. I'll plant seeds. I'll send people DMs like, hey, how's it going? This is what I do. This is who I am. I got some free food that I want to give the business. Can I come over, set up, and hand out 30 free samples to your members? There's no strings attached because I know what that's like. No pressure, no strings attached, nada. I'll even give you 5 free meals for letting me in the door. I appreciate it. And then I don't mess with it after that. Like I feel the vibe there, and sometimes people are feeling it. Sometimes people aren't interested, and I just take that for what it is, But I at least planted a seed, so in the future, when people start thinking about it, they're like, "Remember that dude came? Remember that dude, that culinary ninja guy, And hey, do you still?" Or the owner will be like, "Hey, I'm having an event, and you want to come see, And then I just keep planting seeds. And if you continue to do that, some crops are going to grow at this time, some are going to grow at that time, some are going to grow at this time. And before you know it, if you're just constantly doing that, it gets to the point where you just kind of fucking know everybody.
Yeah. It's funny. My buddy that owns this place, you were talking about just getting started, and it's funny because I got a coworker of mine, a buddy of mine that I've worked with for a long time, and he's a sharp dude too. And we sit there and we talk and we bitch and moan. And he always says, "Man, we're smart guys. What is our problem?" And my answer to him, I always refer to my buddy that owns this place. I always say, "You know what the difference between us and him is?" And he says, "What?" I said, "He's got balls. He's got balls to just fucking do it.
Yeah.
And just throw his hat in the ring, run into walls, figure out what avenues are open, and just hit them, even just networking with people and planting seeds." He told me one time about this older lady. She had it was a very rare thing. The sun was hitting her front windows. It was reflecting and actually burning her flowers in her flower bed. He had a guy go over there and swap the windows out for her. And I said, I asked him, I said, "How long was the warranty? Was it within the warranty of the home construction? Because he's a home builder." And he says, "Oh, no, we didn't build her house." I said, "You didn't build her house?" "No." He said, "But you know what? Older lady, I went and replaced her windows. Down the road, when somebody wants to build a house, she may go, you know what? There was a real nice guy came and replaced my windows. Mm-hmm. Here's his card." Mm-hmm. And it really is what you're saying. It's a numbers game, man. Mm-hmm. And you just gotta put yourself out there. Yeah. If you got a decent, the other thing is you gotta have a decent product.
Yeah. And it's gotta be consistent.
It's gotta be consistent. It's gotta be good product. You gotta be giving somebody something that they want.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah. And you have to be consistent as an individual as well. I have legitimately done everything the right and the wrong way, it feels like, because I have stories of when I've done shit inconsistently, and people notice whether you want them to or not, or whether you think they do or not, actually. And that's, I can always tell how have I been, because I can tell by business fluctuation as well. Are we being inconsistent somewhere? Are we doing something wrong? What's the case? Whatever.
What's your quality control like there?
Well, I mean, it's just me and a couple people, so I'm the quality control.
So you're checking.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's good because it's large enough that you can have your hand in all these boxes, but at the same time, still make sure you're putting out a good product. So
and in the restaurant business, which is, I guess you could kind of say with meal prep businesses, one of the things about meal prep is, first of all, your food has to be good. It's like any other restaurant. The same thing applies to a restaurant. The food has to be fucking good. Okay, plain and simple. That's the very first thing. And then it's got to be consistently good, okay? And if it's not, you have to understand that your restaurant or your meal prep business or whatever the hell it is only as good as the last meal that person ate. So Gabe could have come and eaten with me 20 times in the last year, and then he comes to eat on Sunday and the food just sucks. The only thing Gabe usually is going to remember is that one time the food fucking sucked. And he's definitely not going to come back for a little while. He might come back, but he's going to go check out. He's going to be like, nah, it's time for me to go check out this other barbecue place or whatever. Anyways, I don't know what's happening with Gino's barbecue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The restaurant is only as good as its last meal. That is concrete. I believe in that truly. So you have to understand that without consistency, you have to be good all the time. And that's one of the biggest things. And restaurant businesses in general is tough tough industry to be in, because it's food. There's fucking, right now there's bro,
I see so many of these people that
I see so many of these people that I sell to, and then I'm here a couple months later, they got their own fucking meal prep. I'm like, bro, it's not as easy as you fucking think it is. And then for me, that's kind of annoying, because it's like, I take
It's a competitive space because there's so many options. Yeah.
I take food seriously.
Yeah.
Like it's an art to me. Like I'm not doing this because I want to it's not my side hustle.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing this because, I want to cater to, Joe and whatever at the fucking gym. Like I do it because it's art to me. And what I did is when I ended up leaving the fitness industry after my stint in the fitness industry, I had a buddy of mine, Sean Sykes, who I'll always give credit to, that told me he needed me to help meal prep for him because he was going on American Ninja. One of these shows on TV where they like have a competition. Like it was a wrestler, I think, that was holding the show. It wasn't American Ninja. It was one of these.
It wasn't the Rock show?
Nah, it wasn't the Rock. It was like not John Cena. I don't know. It was some wrestler that was doing this show or whatever. It was super popular. And so that kind of got my brain going. And then my wife was like, without her, I mean, she was all in, had my back 100%. And because I had my doubts like crazy. So I started doing it as a side hustle. And I was still in the fitness industry. And it got to the points where, like, in the fitness industry, it's just like the fucking culinary business. I was there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. because I was in sales and marketing. I would get out, I would go home, and I would cook some meals at my house for people. And I would do it late into the night, and I'd go to sleep for a couple hours and wake up and go back to work. And I did that for a few months, and I was like, well, fuck, I'm making like $600-700 a week right now. Doing this, like, not even making a lot of meals, maybe like 100 meals or something out of my apartment or my house. And like, what if I apply myself to this business like I do to a corporate business that's keeping most of my money? Like,
yeah.
What if I give myself? Like, what if I just go all in? And I kind of did the calculations, like, okay, well, we need like whatever amount of money to survive for the month. This is how much I'm making on my salary. I need like 65% of my salary to actually live. So if I can get to that 65%, I'm like whatever percent away right now. Like I did all the numbers on it, and then eventually just decided to pull the trigger. And bro, once I pulled that trigger, it was the most nerve-wracking thing ever. Literally from that week to like 2 weeks later, I tripled the amount of money I was making.
Wow.
Like it just, because I just started marketing myself the way I would always market everybody else's business. And
instead of having a few hours to cook, now you've got
the whole fucking day.
A 40-hour week if you wanted.
And we had just had my other daughter. So I got to like stay at home with her, and I would go out and I would just hustle. I would set up at places, everything that I was doing for the corporate fitness industry, I just started doing for myself. Every connection that I was maintaining and nurturing for somebody else's business, I just started doing it for myself.
Yeah.
And it just all shifted. Like I already had the base. I didn't even know it until I did it. I would have never imagined it until I actually did it. And then I just made that shift. And now I'm me doing it for me.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, it was like I said, literally within a few weeks, I was like, bro. And I remember like the guy that I put in a 30-day notice to my job. And I was like, here's a month notice because I knew that I had an important position. I didn't want to just be a dick and drop off. And I didn't know what was going to happen. Like a week and a half into that notice, I met with one of the higher ups and we were sitting at a fucking Starbucks or some bullshit like that. And he was like, it's a tough industry to be in. I don't know if you're going to make it. And I'll always remember that shit, man. Cause he was like, I don't know if you're going to make it, just cause he had been grooming me for a position that I was going to take too. Cause I was traveling back and forth to Austin as well. Cause I was going to oversee the Austin market and I was going to get like this promotion or whatever. Right. And I remember him saying that shit to me and I was just like, yeah, no, I think I'm done now. Literally. I was just like, yeah, you know what? Like,
well,
I'm done.
If you had any reservations about it, that just kind of said, hey.
And I literally said that. I was like, I think I'm done now. Like, I'm not going to be here for the rest of the time. As of today, I'm my own boss. And I took that comment and it fueled me into like I said, now I was like, okay, now I got to fucking do something. I got to walk it like I talked it. You know what I mean? So, and then it just turned out to be a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And from that point, it was just maintaining those relationships and building new ones. in order to market and promote yourself.
There's got to be so many people, including myself, that are on the verge of doing something amazing for yourself.
Yeah.
You just gotta have the balls to jump. You know,
well, it's tough, man, especially when you're in a secure environment. You know what I mean? Like you got a full-time job, you probably had it for a long time. Like it doesn't mean you have to leave your job, but I definitely think you should pull the trigger on starting the birth of something new for yourself in order to realize your potential in being able to generate your own income because of who you are versus doing it for somebody else. Because there's nothing wrong with doing it for somebody else or working for, it just wasn't for me.
Right.
It never was for me. I work for an independent owner. Like I said, in the restaurant business, that's different. Independent owners in the restaurant business, that's not like working for corporate America. Working for corporate America is not the same as working for an independent owner anywhere. Corporate America, like I was in that and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
As people I just hated every aspect. It was not for me. So there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that a lot of people need to take the opportunity to realize their potential and be okay with failing like a lot. Yeah. And it sucks and it stings and you take these L's and it fucking sucks mentally in so many ways. But I've also seen people that I've had conversations with who have decided to pull the trigger and have generated their own business and ended up leaving their jobs and have their own business now. And they're so much happier, and the value that they have in their life and their time management, everything is just, they own their own time. And I think that's huge because like I would rather make $40,000 a year and own my own time than to make $200,000 and have to work 18 hours a day or 15 hours a day again.
Yeah.
Like whether people can't see that because they're the ones that are just infatuated with the money. Mm-hmm. Like the money doesn't make me rich. I know that I can make money on my own. What makes me rich is like being with my kids or being with my family whenever I can, anytime that I can. Yeah. People that know me that listen to this will know that when you see me, you always see my kids with me. Like it just happens. It's just how it is. I'm always with my family. But that wasn't always the case. I spent a lot of time away from my family too. So like it's going to be a tough task to take me away from that now. You could approach me and say, I give you $300K, but you got to give me 14 hours a day. I'd say no. There's no question.
Yeah. I guess there's an idea of what providing for your family looks like. And I think for a lot of people, and it is, but I think for a lot of people that is a monetary means, right? And like I said, there is that aspect of it.
Yeah, there is.
But providing for your family is much more than the money. It's the time, it's the experiences, it's the memories that you're making. You might be able to provide your kids with everything they could ever want, but when they get older and they move out of the house and they think back on their childhood and it's like, well, Dad was never home anyway.
Yeah.
We never built that. They'll have conversations with their peers and they'll go, well, we never did that. We never had those experiences.
Yeah.
I had everything I wanted, but I don't have any memories with him, you know? And it's like, there's a trade-off there, right? Sure, there's sacrifices that have to happen on both sides. But there's a trade-off there, and it's kind of like, well, what are you going to prioritize? Are you going to prioritize the monetary side, or are you going to prioritize, the being there and the having memories and building a young, productive person? You know, because it's easy to show somebody how to make money. There's a certain age, when you try and teach a boy or a girl at 18 how to be a good man or a woman, it's too late.
It is.
That knowledge it's implemented when they're 1, when they're 2. It's little doses the entirety of their childhood. Mm-hmm. Then when they're 18, they have 18 years of small doses of how to be a good man or how to be a good woman. Mm-hmm. When you try and do that at the end, it's too late, man. Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of people do is they sit there and go, oh, they're little, I can go work all these hours. They're not going to know. Yeah.
They know.
But they know.
Trust me.
They know.
Like I said, I had my son when I was young. So he's grown now. He just got married. He's got his own life. No kids yet or anything like that. I'm not a grandpa yet. But I spend more time with my son now as an adult, he came to live with me when he was, I think like 13 or 14. But even then I was older than that, like 14 maybe. Even then I was still working a lot, you know, and my priorities and my mental capacity still fucking wasn't as matured as it is now. Like I'm a whole different man, like in the last 8 to 10 years maybe. He had a whole different life. He only knew the dad that worked and like was never home and was hardly around and could never do anything because he worked every holidays. Like that's the man he knew growing up. Like he's still an amazing person and we have a great relationship. You know, like we train together, like jiu-jitsu and MMA and all that stuff. But I spend more time with him now than I did when he was a kid. And you know, so you could ask him, like he'll explain a whole different father than my 6-year-old or my 13-year-old will, especially my 6-year-old. My 6-year-old had a whole different life because she only knows dad at home all the time.
Yeah.
She doesn't know the dad. He knows the dad that was never home. She knows the dad that was always home or always with her. Even when I go to events everywhere, like they're always with me. So that's like I said, a whole different fucking life, like whole 2 different lives. You know what I mean? And that's why I can understand that I would not sacrifice an amount of money for the time, because the time is way more valuable to me now because I have 2 children, my son and his sister, my other daughter, she lives in Austin. I hardly spend any time with her.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not, we're still on good terms. I mean, we talk and everything, but I don't see her as much because she lives in Austin. We don't have the closest relationship. Like, you know, she knows I love her, she loves me, etc. But for me, she got the worst part of it because like I got divorced, you know, from her mom. I was never around. She was closer to her mom. Like she was never close to me. So like, you know, it's not a bad relationship, but it's nothing like these other relationships. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that I taste and I understand the bitterness of not owning your own time because you want to make a couple $100,000 a year versus owning my own time. And if you work your ass off, you can still make a couple $100,000 a year. Sure. You just got to fucking, you know, you got to just hustle, you know, you got to know what to do and you got to do things the right way. But where people are afraid, the reason why I made that point is because they know that they're only going to make maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe 40 grand in the first couple of years, which is what happened to me. You know, and that's scary because if you have even a salary that pays you 65, 75, 80, 90 a year, whatever, you're like, fuck, I'm only going to make this amount of money. But yeah, bro, but you get so much more out of your time.
That's the fear for a lot of people. I mean, and I say that because it's a fear that's in me, right? Yeah. You sit there and you go, you know, when I made 30 grand, I wish I'd made 40. You know, and then when I made 40, I wish I made 50. And now you get to the point where it's like, okay, well, now I make a certain amount of money that I can't do what I want because I'm tethered to this salary. You know, my living experiences, and this is the funny thing. I always tell people I make $80,000 right now.
Yeah.
When I made $900 a month at the jail, I still had the same amount of money at the end of the day. Bro. You know, it doesn't make it's just my standard of living changed.
Yeah.
You know, and now that I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's not like I've got tons of money in the bank. Mm-hmm. I have as much money in my pocket as when I made $900 a month at the jail. It's crazy.
I told my son a while back, I used to I remember being in sales at Goals when I first started. And I made like, when I was in the culinary world, I made like 80, 85 a year. And I was making, for me, that was a gang of cash, but you got to remember the amount of hours I was putting in. And it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So for me, I was making mad money, right? I was loving it. But I remember when I got into the fitness industry, I used to just dream of like, man, I want to make 100K. I want to make 100K. Like I cannot. One day I'm going to make 100K like the doctors do. I would tell myself that, you know what I mean? Like doctors make 100, 120, 140 when they're like first few years, or even like general practitioners, right? I would know this shit and I'd be like, I'm going to make as much as a doctor makes. Like I can't wait till I do that. Bro, I made 100K. The first year I made 100K, I was like, bro, I don't even have no money. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, I don't have any fucking money. Like, I made 100K this year. Like, great. Yeah. Like, it doesn't mean shit. Like, it was nothing like I expected it to be. And it could be because, like, you're financing your lifestyle and the way that you're increasing your lifestyle or the things you're doing in your lifestyle. or it could be inflation, or it could be both. I don't know, but I just remember being like, this don't fucking mean shit. Like, okay, 100K isn't what I thought it would be, you know, to see that number and know that I made that. It's cool that you make it on your own if you have your own business and it feels great, but it's just like, really ain't shit.
Yeah.
You know, so that helps also put in perspective, like owning your own time.
Back to the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one thing that I always get upset about is I learn shit too late. You know, I'm 47, right? And it's like, maybe it goes for everybody, right? But I sit there and I try and talk to my nephews, and I try and I've got my buddy's kid, the guy that owns this place. His kid's very sharp, very with it. He's 17, 18. And it's funny because, like, I like seeing kids like that because they got it. They got it early. They figured it out. Mm-hmm. You know, hopefully they maintain it. But it's like, man, I'm late to the
like
game.
Like a late bloomer
everywhere.
Dude, I say that. I tell people I'm a late bloomer, and I also come out the gate really slow. Like I use that in the jiu-jitsu world a lot. They're like, man, you got to get promoted. It's time for you to get promoted to the new belt already. I'm like, bro, I don't care. I'm slow motion, bro. I come out the gate slow. I analyze. I got to learn defense before anything. Like, I've always been a defensive player, and like when I would play basketball or in combat sports, I'm a defensive player, period. Yeah. That just comes naturally. So you got to learn all the defense before you learn any of the offense. Like, that's the way I function, which makes the journey even longer. So I've always been a slow out the gate guy, you know, even when I started my business, it was like still kind of like all the learning process kind of slow out the gate. And then I'll realize one day, like, oh, if I connect A, B to C, there's already D and here's E. Why the fuck wasn't I doing this like 3 years ago? And then boom, you know what I mean? And then it hits. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is the time that I kind of like justify it now like that. I tell myself like, okay, well, it's because it wasn't the time then. Yeah. So now's the time for me to learn or to project this onto somebody else or whatever the case is. But I use that a lot myself, man.
I'm the same way. You know, it's funny because like I will not understand something for a long time, but when it clicks, I'll never forget it. Yeah. You know, and again, slow out the gate or whatever you want to call it. But I'm the same way. You know, it takes me a little while to figure things out because sometimes like I said, sometimes my problem is I overthink things. You know, I've done a podcast with a friend of mine from high school, and she had mentioned something that kind of stuck with me, and I've been working towards that too. Is a lot of times I wouldn't get started because I'd literally sit there and I'd go from the beginning to the end of a thought, and I'd go, yeah, I can't do that. That's not going to work. Because I talked myself out of it, and because it wasn't going to be perfect, you know. And one thing she had told me, she said, "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good." She says, if you can do something and it be good, it doesn't have to be perfect. Eventually, maybe you can work towards perfection. But again, it's that getting started. It's the movement. It's the get going. You know, you may find that the direction you're going is a good direction, but when you get down the road a little ways, you might find another avenue to take. Right. But you won't know until you start moving that way.
And that's super important. That is super important that people understand that part of it, because if you don't start, you might have the end result plan, but man, so many times you're not really going to get there, but you're going to discover so much in the process. Yeah. Or you're going to build new relationships in the process, or you're going to even get a better opportunity. I can't tell you how many times I've done things with the intention to finish here, and I end up meeting this person who's led me this direction. I'm like, oh shit, this is so much better than what I initially had planned. Or I make this partnership or this connection or this whatever. Man, I've tried everything under the sun when it comes to building my business. I've done so much. You know, and I feel like I just have to. I swing at every fucking ball. Yeah. So like, I feel like I have to do that, and I, even though sometimes like I'm about to start a relationship with this like local influencer, super popular, like all over TikTok.
Gino, where are you buddies,
like,
Gino?
Like all this stuff, right? And I haven't been doing that for a while because I did it so much in the beginning that I realized so many fucking people are full of shit. Yeah. Like they just want to take. They don't want anything in return. You know what I mean? They don't want to give anything. And they really, honestly, it's not that they don't want to give anything in return. They just fucking can't give anything in return. And that's okay, but I hate when people gas you up and they're like, bro, I'm gonna do this and that. You hook me up, you this, you that, whatever, and I'm gonna make this happen. And then they don't hold up their end. Like I've come out of pocket financially. I've like traded for food. I've done all these things to kind of help build my business with people or other businesses. And 9.5 times out of 10, they don't hold up their end of the deal the way that they felt that they could, because when the shit hits the fan, you realize like, I really don't have that much pull. And I've seen that in people so often, to where I'll make a deal with them and they have all these things and I'm like, stop trying to gas it. Don't sell me, bro. Just do what you say you're going to do, you know? But what I've learned is, because I went through a point to where I got kind of negative and bitter about that, is there's still learning within that. Like, it's still some form of exposure for me, you know, to work with people, to help build the business. Cause I'm like, I could have done this 10 times better than you. Like, why the fuck am I making this deal with you when I could have just done this myself, you know? Yeah. But I take those chances, and it leads back to, like, most of the time you're going to fail. Like, you're going to swing at the ball and you're not going to hit it most of the time. But then that opens up the opportunity for every now and then I'm going to fucking hit that ball and it's going to be a home run, you know? So I had kind of got away from like sponsoring fighters and doing all these other things and like working with like local influencers or whatever for a while. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this one a try, because we'll see, you know, we'll see. I fucking lost my train of thought there. I forgot what the point was behind that, but it's something that I think I've trialed and errored so many times. And the one thing I've taken from it is to lower my expectations and not to hold other people accountable for my expectations. Like, it's not their fault. Like, people believe that they're a lot more than they really are typically. Sure. And that's okay. Like, you know, it's all right. Like, I don't want to be like, bro, you thought you fucking were cool and you're really not. Like, I'm not going to be that asshole, because everybody has to, like, you got to make yourself feel good, right? I don't know how else to really say that. So, but I really learned to not hold them accountable for what my expectations were, in a sense, you know?
Well, you know, I think a lot of people also put a lot of, social media is a huge resource, right? Yeah. But a lot of people put a lot of weight behind the numbers, you know? So let's say somebody's got 1 million followers, right? Yeah. They've got 1 million people that went follow. That's all they got. Yeah. You know, but when it comes down to somebody putting their dollars down to support that person, how many is that really? Yeah. You know, out of 1 million, 100,000 maybe? Yeah. You know? Maybe. And so you're looking at these numbers and you're going, they're kind of misleading, right? Because it's like, okay, somebody may have 1 million, but there are 1 million random people that aren't going to take their dollar out and give it to you. Yep. You know, there's some people that have fewer, but you know what? They have a tight base. They got a tight group. And you know what? If they go downtown and they set up downtown, they're going to have a shitload of people show up. Now, granted, it's not going to be maybe as many as 1 million people, but when you look at a percentage of people that are looking at what they're putting out there, they got a tighter group. And that's not always the case. Sometimes people do amazing. Yeah. But I think that's where a lot of people kind of get lost, is they look at the numbers in whether it's views or clicks, and granted, what's another way to determine that? Who knows? Yeah. You know, so maybe that's just the best way to do it right now. But when you look at it, you're like, okay, I've got all these people behind me, but how many of them are actually going to go to a concert or go to your concert or go to your venue or go to your whatever you got going on? How many are going to fucking pull that dollar out and give it to you? It's a lot less, you know? So I think a lot of times with something that you might be doing or they might be doing, you kind of have to look at it with, we're taking a chance, because that's literally all it is. You know, there's so many times that I see people and it's kind of like, well, you know, you'll look at views, right? There's some, I don't know all the social media stuff, but there's times where it's like, you know, you may have 30 followers, but your shit got viewed 1,500 times. Yeah. And it's like, okay, how do I get those 1,500 people to go click follow, you know? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Let's just keep fucking rolling, man. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just keep doing what we're doing and see what happens, you know, sort it out later.
I think if you're just authentic and you're consistent, like, I'm old school, I still think word of mouth is the best way to gain business. Sure. Like word of mouth, building a business helps, because, you know, you give somebody good product, good opportunity, good whatever. Like they're going to tell their friends and their family, and their friends and the family might be willing to take that chance with you. And that's all word of mouth. And if you give them a bad experience, well, they're going to tell probably double the amount of people they would for the good experience. But that's another demon in itself. But I think that's still just the best way to build business. That's why I like to physically go out to places and speak to people face to face, because I like to understand what they're seeing, feeling, hearing, and vice versa. Like I want them to know, like, I probably have done this to you. I send video messages out a lot. I try not to like text that much. I'll just record myself in a message and I'll send it to people I don't even know, people who like reach out to me and ask me for whatever or this or that, or because I want them to see and understand. Like I like to have face-to-face conversations. That's why I think it's important to go out and speak to people in person. And I've had a lot of people recently, like over the last couple of years, tell me like, that's old school shit. Just do Facebook marketing. Just like Facebook will do this for you. Instagram, Twitter, blah, blah, blah bullshit. I'm like, bro, I don't even want to be on that shit.
Yeah.
And
well, you know what's funny is that's a new mentality, right? There's so many times, and you know that you've seen this, where you've seen maybe from a distance. I've seen it from a distance, where Gino walks in the room, he goes up to Joe below in the corner, say, "Yo, what's up, man?" High five, walk off. That person in the corner is gonna go, "That's a cool motherfucker, man."
Yeah.
You're not going to get that by going, "Hey, go click this like."
Yeah.
You're not going to get that interaction. I was talking to Rob. We're talking about podcasting, and there's so many different avenues to do it. And some of them have their pluses. Some of them have their minuses. There's a lot of people that do it virtually, and the cool thing about virtual is you can, if you can get somebody to get on, you can have a podcast with anybody on the planet.
Yeah.
I told Rob, I said, I haven't gotten to that point because to me, I like somebody sitting in that fucking chair.
Yeah, there's so many people here.
Yeah. There's so many people here you can have on, and it's so different when me and you were sitting here bullshitting, as opposed to if me and you were bullshitting over the internet. There's something missing in that interaction.
Yeah.
Right now, I always tell people this is literally two people bullshitting. And it's hard to make that happen when you're not sitting in the same room.
Yeah.
So for you to go door to door and shake hands with people and say, "Hey, what's up?" That carries a lot more weight with folks than you blasting this, "Hey, go like this this product," and you send it to everybody.
Because that's what everybody is doing.
And it's so easy to ignore it.
Doing it. Yeah, it's fucking signage blindage. Yeah. I explained this to somebody like recently. I'm like, the signage blindage is basically like what social media is now. Like, you put up the same sign, you keep it in one place for 30 days. After like fucking 10 days, that person no longer sees it.
Right.
It does not exist to them anymore. But once you change it, they'll notice it the very next day. They'll be like, "Oh, that used to be whatever sign. Now it's this sign." Like, that's what social media is. And going out and like I said, building these relationships like in person is just so much more authentic, and like you said, carries more weight. And just, you never hear anybody our age say, "Do a Facebook fucking marketing campaign." Like, you don't. No. You only hear like fucking 30 and under, 35, I don't even know, whatever, man. Like, I sound like an old man, but it's true. You will never hear anybody our age say, I haven't, at least. And I talk to a lot of fucking people, and I've never had somebody probably over 35 tell me, "Don't market your business like face to face."
Yeah.
That's only the young people that tell me to do that shit. I'm like, no, that's, for me, it's fucking like, I don't know how else to put it besides, I'm not saying it's not possible.
Sure.
But there's a lazy aspect of it that I'm not fond of. Like, I want to do the work.
Right.
I need to feel the work and the reward aspect of it. Sure. I can't just, like, I got a cousin who I work very well with. We call him Chacho. His name's Javier Herrera. He's a lazy motherfucker, bro. But he gets shit done.
Yeah.
He gets things done. And he told me one time, he's like, "I find the easy ways to do things, and you do everything the long fucking hard way." And we started a business together called Cowboy Insurance. We had like 4 locations. The Baboso mismanaged his money, and then we ended up having to close him up right when COVID hit. Like, everything was great though. In the beginning, we had him for like 4 years. But we grew the business quickly because of those two aspects combined. He was always finding, he didn't want to leave and go fuck. He's like, no, hombre, bro, let's go to the car dealership. I'll fucking take a bottle of whiskey to Mateo over there. And we would chop it up, and everybody would call him Cowboy. He's a big Mexican dude, always wore a cowboy hat, chacho, whatever. We sit down, he chop it up. He built this badass relationship, and he'd be like, check it out. And we go do that to like 5 businesses. And then these dudes, every time somebody would come by a car, they'd be like, hey, chacho, I need insurance real quick, bro. To hook me up, do it over the phone, blah, blah, blah. All right, hermano, you got it. Well, perico, let's do it, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how he would do his shit. And I would go out and I would like talk to people and I'd be like, hey, we're new in the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. And I'd spend like 6 hours doing that. He'd be like, bro, why are you out there walking around doing that shit?
But you're doing the same thing.
I am.
You're building relationships.
I was doing it the long, hard way,
right.
and he was doing it the quick, easy way. But we worked very well together.
Yeah.
But there was just, we couldn't get on each other's boat when it came to like, we could never go do it together because I wanted to do it one way, he wanted to do it another way, and we didn't believe in the way the other one was doing it.
Yeah.
But we knew they worked,
Sure.
you know? So he did his shit his way great, and I did my shit my way great. So I'm not saying that shorter routes don't work, but they're not as intimate.
Yeah.
And I don't think they last as long.
Sure.
And I think that's essential when it comes to building anything, business, a relationship, whatever. Like, you couldn't have a relationship with your wife virtually all the time. Like,
right.
Eventually she's gonna be like, hey, bro, I never see you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meet my new boyfriend. You
Well,
know?
there's a generation of folks that have been raised to not interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when we're gone, that virtual stuff will probably carry a lot more weight than while we're here.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee you, if you take a kid that isn't accustomed to interacting with somebody and is accustomed to interacting online, and you go up to that kid and introduce yourself and smile and shake your hand, it doesn't matter if it's a 18-year-old that's grown up in this time or a 50-year-old. That connection, that is primal. That's us sharing a moment, right?
Yeah.
That's us, hey, shaking hands. That sticks with you, regardless of what generation you're from or how you were raised. That interaction, that handshake, that, hey, man, I appreciate it, slap on the shoulder. You know, when they see you in town or they see you on the internet, they go, oh, man, I met that guy. He's cool.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, that stuff's forever, man.
Yeah.
That stuff's forever.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right.
I want to ask you something, though.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
We're getting to the point where I might have to go pee. So
I was there like 20 minutes ago.
Okay, we'll make it quick. We'll wrap this up here shortly.
No, it's all good. Go ahead.
Before we get done, I wanted to ask you, because you said this earlier, piqued my interest. Okay. So you're into ghosts and shit.
Oh, dude. Don't even mention ghosts, bro. I'm addicted to... Oh, bro, I love ghosts.
Well, let me ask you this.
I love that shit.
What experience have you had that's really stuck with you? Because I'll be honest with you. Me too, man.
Okay. Oh, first of all, I love everything supernatural.
Yeah.
Okay. Ghosts, like I watch Ghost Adventures like every night.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
I'm addicted to it. I love it, bro. I love it. I'm pissed off right now because our HBO stopped working and we have it through AT&T. And I went to AT&T earlier and I completely forgot to ask them why our HBO messed up. But anyways, it's a whole nother thing. I love ghosts. I'm in all haunted shit and supernatural stuff like crazy. So with that said, the most recent thing, there's probably only been I think there's 3 things that have happened to me in my entire life, right? And I've always felt like I've kind of been sensitive to stuff, right? So without diving too deep, I'll just give you the most recent experience. Me and her actually, I was with both my daughters actually. So I was training out of my buddy Sean Sykes' gym, and he had it at this place called Juan's Bodega. It's downtown in Southtown. It's like a historical building, and it's built over. There's a huge Indian concave that reaches from the Alamo all the way down into Southtown, like an underground underground ritual.
Got you.
Like they had this whole thing underground. Yeah. So, and then Juan's Bodega is like a historical building. It was built in 18 something or whatever. And it was owned originally by a dude named something Wong, and he was a bodega. And so he had his gym in the basement. Okay, so it's the basement, street level, and second level. Well, supposedly it's super haunted, right? So we were there in the basement, and nothing ever happened. Everything was always chill. There was one thing one morning, he told me the next morning, he had it on video because we had the cameras in there. He's like, bro, you got to check this shit out. And one thing that would happen, but we would always attest it to, we had a heavy bag hanging in there, like a 140-pound heavy bag. It would start swinging on its own. But we were in the basement. The bodega was directly upstairs, but there was also 2 streets. It's also Flores and like, what is it? It's the Tri-Point Flores. I forgot what the other two streets are. So we would always say it was a street, like the vibration. Or whatever, yeah. Right? So we would have tested, but when I'm saying swinging, I mean swinging, bro. So I was like, that's a 140-pound bag, Sean. I don't know if that shit should be swinging on its own. But anyways, so one day he showed me a video, and there was this huge orb. It was probably like big softball size. So the gym is like here where we're at, and that wall is a little bit further back. There's another part of the basement, it was cut in 3 parts. We had two of the parts, and the third part there was a wall. So you see this orb come out of the ground, and it comes up, and it moves around the pole, and it comes like around the heavy bag, like an S, and then it comes to the camera, and it kind of hovers there, and then it shoots into the camera.
No kidding.
This thing was clear as day, like that big. Here's the crazy part that we didn't notice the first few times we saw the video. Because first alone, like it's a clear orb comes out of the ground, bro, and intentionally moves around objects and then comes to the camera and then like shoots into the camera, right? That was already super trippy. What we didn't notice is everything was off in there. It's pitch black dark, okay? So when the motion detector picked up the motion, that's when it turned on and started recording, right? Well, as the orb was moving, it turned on the fan and then it turned on the radio.
Really?
So there was a big fan, and as it moved past the fan turned on, and as it moved past the radio turned on. And we didn't notice that at first. You know, we saw the little lights come on both of them or whatever. So that was trippy in itself, right? Okay, so that was that. But here's what happened. My little daughter had to pee, and we ran upstairs. The restrooms were on the fucking 2nd floor. So we had to go to street level, go in through street level, go up the stairs into the restrooms. So we go to the restroom. Well, the stairs go like this and then like this. So as we walk up these stairs, there's a door. I open the door and there's a room like this. Like I open the door and this room is like over there. And I saw somebody walk out that way. There's nobody there. The place is closed. It's a Saturday because there's like a massage therapy and shit up there, but there's nobody there. All the lights are off. And I see somebody walk that way. And neither one of us, me or her, said anything to each other, okay? So I'm like, who the fuck is that, right? So I take my daughter into the restroom. I'm waiting there or whatever. And she goes into the restroom too. And then she comes out. And I walked over there. I was like, who the fuck is in here? You know, I'm looking. There's nothing there. Just doors, like other little areas for people where they work. So we walk out. And you know that feeling when somebody's watching you? Mm-hmm. Like I had that feeling. Me and her still hadn't said anything to each other. So I'm like, fuck, and I had that little feeling. I was like, somebody like right behind me, I felt like, right? We closed the door, we walk down, we walk down the steps, and then we turn to walk down the other steps. And imagine you're walking and somebody just fucking sprints up behind you and like goes raw, you know what I mean? Like you could feel somebody running behind you, right? So
almost like the air is moving.
Yeah, and so I felt that, and right before I felt like I was about to get fucking pushed. So I grabbed my daughter because I thought she was gonna fall. For some reason, just happens like subconsciously, right? I grabbed my daughter because she's in front of me, and then I go, and so did she. Like at the same time, we felt the same thing. She was like, Daddy, there's something there. And I was like, if we fucking sprinted down the stairs and we get out. And she was like, oh my God, I felt like somebody was about to push us down the stairs. I said, so did I. That's crazy. She's like, well, there was somebody up there. Like when we went there, I thought there was that person. They were going to push us. I was like, what do you mean there was somebody up there? She's like, yeah, like when we walked upstairs, I saw a lady walking to the back and I didn't know where she went, but it kind of spooked me out. And it was weird because I saw somebody too, but she said I saw a lady. So like, and I remember when we walked up there, I saw what I saw, and she was here, and she was like, I'm going to go to the restroom, but she was kind of like looking over there. So that was the most recent thing that happened. And I know like we both felt it, like we felt like we're like somebody just ran up behind us and like bad intentions, you know what I mean? And I was like, that shit was spooky as shit. And supposedly that place is super haunted. The people that were there before, well, it used to be a lot of things. It used to be a restaurant. It used to be like a marketing business. It was Chamoy something before, like some kind of digital marketing. And they moved because they would be like in here and they would go to the next room and they would come back and all the shit was off the walls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was like getting real, or something, things like a bottle flew across the fucking, the room. So they were like, no, we're out of here.
Damn.
They moved. So yeah, so we never saw like anything that active, but we just had that one like experience where like something, I know that I walked in and I saw somebody walk out the back, but it was like a black shadow. And like, I was like, what the fuck? I was trying to make out who it was. And then she clearly saw, she was like, there was a lady back there. And I was like, well, fuck, I don't know. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she said she couldn't really tell, you know? So
I've had a bunch of experiences, but some of them were just really minor, like quick somethings. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what the bigger one. This is gonna sound fake, but because it really like,
bro, you're talking to somebody who, like I said, watches Goat. I don't think anything is fake. I take everything seriously, bro.
I used to work at the jail.
Yeah.
It was an old county jail, and back in the day, I think the story was they had hung 3 people in the jail. So on the 3rd floor, behind the women's cells, was this old cell inside the building. It had those long flat bars, you know, so it was kind of like a square. You know, the cell was just made of a bunch of little squares. And then there was a box with 3 levers. Supposedly the mechanism would change the levers, but that would drop the floor. It would hang the person. They drop in the judge's chamber, and they would pronounce him dead.
Oh, shit.
And so it was a Saturday.
That's crazy.
Oh, I think they said they had killed 3 people that are doing that back in the day or whatever, late 1800s. And so it's a Saturday. We're fixing to run visitation with the inmates, and it's just me and my partner and dispatcher. And so my partner's like, hey, I'm going to go downstairs. We got an hour before people start coming. I'm going to go visit with her. I said, all right, I'm going to go take a nap in the judge's chamber or in the courtroom. It was all attached. So I get the judge's chair and I go in, I put it up against the wall, and I put my foot up on the wall, and I'm got my arms crossed, and I'm right in front of, and I don't know why I set it up there, but I'm right in front of this old picture of this old judge. And so I'm sitting there with my feet up, and I'm kind of starting to doze off, and I hear this, you know, those heavy doors with the bar. So I hear the bar click, and I hear the door go across the carpet, and it's around the corner of this wall. And so I'm thinking it's my partner, right? And we'd always screw with each other, so I was just playing it cool. And so I hear the door open across the carpet, closes. So I wait a second, and I go, Josie, nothing. So I get on the radio, and I'm playing it cool because I'm thinking she's screwing with me. So I go, hey, Josie, where you at? She's like, I'm downstairs with dispatch, and I can hear this dispatcher talking when she talks back. So I go, anybody else here? Any DPS or police, anybody? She goes, no, just us and the inmates are locked up. I said, okay. I got the hell out of there. I went downstairs and told her what happened. And so let it go. Mm-hmm. This was in 98.
Yeah.
This past year, I was, when I can, I try and do like a Halloween podcast where people just tell their scary stories.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get a hold of anybody. I waited too late too. So my buddy, whose mom was the dispatcher, goes, hey man, I got a scary story for you. I got to give it to you. I said, man, well, I'm not doing it, but I'll call you anyway because I'd love to hear it. Mm-hmm. He goes, when I was a little kid, which would have probably been late 80s, early 90s, his mom was a dispatcher there forever. He said, I was shooting baskets in the Sally Port, and the ball went out of the Sally Port into the parking lot. He said, so I ran out to get it. This was at night. My mom was working graveyards, and I saw this old white guy dressed in a judge's outfit. He said, and it freaked me out because it was after midnight. He said, so I ran into the dispatcher's room, and I told my mom what I saw. And she goes, are you sure? Because everything I described to her was the first judge that was in Live Oak County. And he goes, he told me, and which was the picture I was sitting in front of in fucking 98.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, we saw the same fucking ghost.
Yeah.
So we had that experience. I've had other ones, but you know what, man? I tell you what, I love that stuff. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
And a little bit of me kind of is excited because it makes me feel like there's something more when we're done here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's part of my intrigue. It's not just, oh man, this is crazy. Because that's the cool part. That's the fun part. But also when you think about it, it's like good, man. There's something else for us.
There's there's life after death in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? Yeah. That stuff is so intriguing to me, man. I go down rabbit holes all the time about just all types of things, which lead to other like crazy shit. But I'm always really been interested in like the supernatural and like the science behind it, and religion and how it's applied to religion and stuff as well. Like I read a lot about it too. I like to learn like different things in history about like how the supernatural is applied to like history, or if it was, or I go down like there's so much shit I could talk about that I go down rabbit holes with, and it leads just in different directions. And like I always have to be reading, so I'm always reading something. Oddly, right now I'm reading the Quran, and that's because I have this whole reason why I'm like, I've read the Bible tons of times, like a book. And I don't think a lot of people read the Bible like a book. They read the Bible like they take segments of it and they read whatever is given to them in church. They don't ever sit down and open page 1 and then read the Bible from cover to cover like a book and take out like, you don't necessarily have to remove like your religious beliefs, but you just need to read it like it was like, no disrespect, but like a Harry Potter book or something. Like just read it like a book, like any book. Just read it from front to back, and then you have a different perspective towards it in the sense of like you learn different things from it. You can grab different, because most of the time we just go to church and we just whatever they say, that's what we read.
And I think a lot of times too that people are searching for something.
Yeah.
So when they're reading the Bible, a lot of times they're looking for an answer to a question they might have. So I think that reading it in different ways only helps you, because a lot of times when you find what you're looking for or an answer that you can apply to your problem, you stop reading.
Yeah.
So that happens too.
Yeah. I always like if I ever have like a religious conversation with somebody, I always tell them like one thing. If you believe, in the Bible, you should read it, like the whole Bible. Most people I ask have never ever read the Bible like an actual book. And I've just always had this thing, like I've literally read it probably over 7 times, like a book. And every time it always touches you different, like any other book does. If you read a book at different points in your life, it's always going to touch you in a different way than whenever you read it previously. That applies to any book. The same thing applies to the Bible. Like you might find different things in there. We just put a lot of it's all religious context. So then that's what we apply it to typically. But there's a lot of learning things that you can learn in there about life in general. So anyways, I went on this thing recently where I wanted to learn the difference between the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah. Because I believe in God. I don't understand, like, I want to understand more why we fight so much about God and why we do so many things in the name of God, when it's just we all believe in the same God. I know that sounds very simple and kind of like dumbified, but for me, that's how simple as it is. Like it's God, like there's one God, we should believe in God. And I wanted to understand like the difference between all 3 books, because they all come from the same author, which is God. And they're just 3 different messengers that are responsible for writing these 3 books. So it's like, for me, I wanted to understand like what the message was from each prophet that was given to them by God, and why it's viewed so different around the world, And, you got the Torah, then you got the Bible, then you have the Quran, which is the last book that was given to us by God, per history. I mean, that's just what it was. What I've learned so far, which is crazy, I'll give you one like thing, because I know we're going to wrap it up here, is it's a series of books, like I said, all written by the same author in different times of life or the world or whatever. And for me, it's like, as so many people are going to disagree with me or whatever, but this is once again just the simple context that I've taken from it kind of so far is, it's basically God like saying how we should live, and then revising it because we didn't listen the first time, and then strictening up the rules and revising it again because we didn't listen to it the first 2 times, because every book speaks about the previous book. Like the Quran mentions Jesus Christ and the Bible and Abraham and the Torah and all the teachings prior to that, and literally says, your people did not listen, so this is how I'm restructuring the rules for you to live by now. So it's literally like rule books and like life lessons given to us. And it's like a dad, like, okay, bro, well, you didn't listen this time, so now I got to take away your iPad too. All right, bro, well, you didn't listen, so no iPad, no phone. And if you keep it up, no TV. Like I kind of, that's the kind of like what I started to get from. Of course, there's so much detail to it. Sure. But like overall, it's like, it's just one God, one author. But like there's so much hate, violence. So many people do things and justify things in the name of God, or their specific prophet, when it's like, it's all the same. Like if you're watching Lord of the Rings, you're watching Lord of the Rings, whether it's like 1, 2, 3, or 4. Like it's still the Lord of the Rings, like movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Fast and the Furious. It's still the same. You know, still the same director. You know, still the same cast. You know, it's I don't know. That's what I've taken from it so far, in a very simplified, maybe a dumbified version. But I don't understand like why it becomes so complex. So that's what I'm really trying to like figure out right now. Like that's where awesome, the complexity comes from, like where the resentment for one another comes from, and because like
you know, that might even be something that you don't find in those books.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that resentment or that disagreement between groups of people is generated
by people. It's not in the books.
Or by the devil.
It's not in the books.
That's, I would never tell you not to educate yourself on something. Yeah. But maybe, like I said, maybe that answer is not in those, and maybe that's part of that answer.
So I've thought about reading that book too. I've thought about reading the book by what's his name? I've thought about reading the book too, like that kind of gives the other version, like the Lucifer version of stuff. You know what I mean? But it's me just always wanting to understand like humanity and like, sure. And then in the process you learn all these other things and stuff. But to be clear, there is no book, neither one of those books ever says anything about hating one another.
Sure.
They all preach love, which is the answer to all per these Bibles, right? Like love your brother, love your neighbor. You know, they do give you rules behind when you should be like violent or fight with one another, but they also kind of give you rules of engagement. You know, it's not like kill one another in the name of me because of this. There's some parts that people can take from the books and kind of snake their way into saying that's what it means. You know what I mean? Like, no. If you read this segment here, it says like, you know, you can commit murder in the name of whoever or whatever because Allah.
It's easy to take something, what you want out of it, and ignore the entirety of the rest of
everything
it. And that's where people,
after.
I think, screw up, you know?
Yeah. So that's like a whole like rabbit hole that I'm going down right now myself. And I always try to like keep like some kind of something like that because we're talking about the supernatural. And for me, like it all kind of applies to the same realm. So even though it's religion, like there's just so much like complexity behind it and so much to learn there. And there's a lot of supernatural in there. I mean, if you believe in like angels and demons and prophets and all these other things, you know what I mean? Like that's how everything. You ever watch the show Supernatural? That's like my favorite show of all time, bro. I
saw 20 seasons.
Yeah, bro. It's my favorite show of all time, bro. I love that show. I love it. That's my number one favorite show of all time. So, like, if you think about it, that show has everything in there, right? It even casts God in the show, you know?
Yeah. And
what's the dude's name that they're always rolling around with? The bald head guy. He's the demon. I forget his name. He was really alive for real. Like he was like, I'll tell you his name right now because you got to know this one thing real quick. Like I'll tell you his name.
Man, I forget too, man.
He's I'm gonna feel so dumb right now when I point this dude out. Let me go to my audibles real quick. Check this out.
And is it one of the demons?
Yeah, he's the one that's always with them. He's like their friend. Crowley.
Yes.
Aleister Crowley.
Yes.
So Aleister Crowley was like a real person. Mm-hmm. He changed his name because he said that he was possessed or taken over by Crowley, who was the actual like right-hand demon of Lucifer and all these. So that's, I mean, so you see that I'm not bullshitting. This is like one of the books. Where is it at? Like, where the fuck did it go? It was just there. Shit. You're like, you're bullshitting. I was literally just fucking looking at it. I don't know where. Oh, it's on here. So I was actually started reading or listening to some of it. So it's the Book of Law. It's Aleister Crowley book. It's like he wrote a bunch of books. It's trippy, man. He like led a whole bunch of people in the name of. It's arguable whether it was like devil worship or not, but it was basically the opposite of the to an extent the opposite of like what the Bible is.
Sure.
So, but I mean all that shit, man. I love it. See. Just talk for 20 minutes about fucking one thing. Like,
well, Gino, I'm convinced you do not operate in a 24-hour day. Yours is probably more like 36. But, man, I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Where can people find you?
Well, I have a website. You can follow me on social media. It's the Culinary Ninja, Diet and Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, and all the other little ones that come attached. And our website is theculinaryninja.com. If anybody ever wants to jump on, check out what we do. And
you can order from there too, right? At website.
Yeah, you can order from our website, and you can always find me at probably your local MMA gym. I'm typically at Unity MMA, which is down in Elmendorf. Shout out to those guys. That's my family. That's my tribe.
Women's Night Fridays, right?
Yeah, there's free women's classes on Fridays at Unity MMA. We got free classes in general right now to kick off the new year. So if anybody's ever interested, if you're in that south part of town, we're 281 1604 South. Come out, check it out. Complete opposite side of town of this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Literally the opposite side.
Sounds good. Yeah. You know, I got a friend's daughter who I've known since she was a baby. Mm-hmm. And she's expressed some interest on going on a Friday. So she grew up in a small town. She's a little introverted. So I told her mom, I said, yeah. I said, I know some of the guys down there. We've been trying to get through this football season. So the boys made it to state. So
nice.
That was last week. So I need to revisit with her. And I'll see about getting her down there on some of these Fridays.
It's free every Friday. And then there's also free classes for first responders, law enforcement, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 11:30 a.m. So
is that just a show up, or do they need to sign up, or how does that work?
Just show up and just sign a waiver of liability, but it's free classes for first responders 3 times a week. I mean,
that's awesome.
Like, you don't even have to get a membership. You just got to be a first responder, and you got to come down to the gym and check out what we do. And you can learn jiu-jitsu, you can learn other form of mixed martial arts, wrestling, striking. Yeah, we do it all.
Cool, man. Appreciate it, Gino.
All right, awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.